I'm here to talk about something that I don't understand why more people aren't beating the drum for this. The Detroit Lions have absolutely found the answer at safety. They have. And the idea that we're still asking questions about it, the idea that when you look at ESPN or Our Lads or PFF and you're pulling up depth charts and this guy still isn't a starter listed, or at least listed as a starter, is just insane to me, because I think not only is he the answer at safety for us, but I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think if playing a full season this year fully healthy, he is a top 10, if not a top 5 safety in the NFL. This is a guy that is absolutely insane. And it is Ifeatu Melifonwu. And Pride of Detroit recently just came out with an article where they asked the question, is Iffy a long-term answer at safety? And my answer is an overwhelming yes. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why I love him as a player, why I love him at safety more than Kirby Joseph, why I like him at safety more than CD Deuce, CJ Gardner-Johnson. And I know CJ Gardner-Johnson is no longer with the team. Thank goodness, by the way. You don't even need to get me started on how I felt about that guy and his time here. But what I don't understand is why people aren't sitting there saying, like, all right, this guy's awesome. I'm going to give you a ton of different numbers. All right, let's start with PFF numbers. In 2023, at an overall grade of 85.6, a pass rush of 92, and a coverage grade of 80.9. All right, his run defense was good. Number 2, he's only 25 years old. All right, he's 25 years old. He was a third-round selection. He's 6'3", 210 pounds. He's a big guy, right? He has a forced fumble. He's got 3 sacks. He had 2 picks. His passer rating allowed, which is probably one of my favorite stats, is what is a passer rating allowed against you? And usually when you see a safety, it's higher. I'm just going to be honest. It's higher because you want to get your wide receivers matched up on safeties because they're not as good at coverage as corners. And it was a 70.8. That's really good. Like, that's really, really good. And he was overall, everything he did well. He did well. And we finally was able to play a bunch. When he got healthy about halfway through the season, he became great. And when CJ Gardner-Johnson came back, the defense got worse. And a lot of times what you saw was CJ Gardner-Johnson and Iffy on the field together instead of Kirby and CJ, because they know that Iffy is the better player. He simply is. And when you look at his defensive grade, you can put anything you want into PFF. He was the number 9 ranked safety in the NFL last year. That is 535 snaps. 535 snaps. Now, that's a little over half of what a usual full workload is. All right, now let's go to the other safety that everybody kind of loves for the Lions, and I think it's because he intercepts Aaron Rodgers a lot, and that's Kirby Joseph. Kirby Joseph had almost double the snaps, almost. He had just over 1,043. And in that time, he put together a defensive grade of 56.5, which ranked 83rd out of 95 for safeties. Now, maybe that hip was bothering him more than any of us knew, and that really slowed him down, and he did look slow. He did. He looked slow last year. Kirby Joseph did. But I'm here to tell you that I would hitch my wagon to Iffy if he can have another healthy year, even before I would hitch it to Kirby Joseph. I would want the safety combo of the future to be Branch and Iffy more than I'd want it to be Kirby and Branch, if they're going to play Branch at safety. And it seems like with the corners that they've brought in, when you have a guy like Robertson, when you bring in a couple of corners in the draft, and you bring in a corner in Davis from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers via trade, it seems like they're going to let their corners be playing the nickel more, which would give me the idea that Branch would come back more often than not. But I think this allows for Iffy to be on the field still. And let's move now to the athletic side of it. Sometimes you see a player in the back end that you're like, God just designed that man's body to play safety in the NFL. And Ifeatu Melifonwu is one of those guys. He's long, he's rangy, he's fast. And if you don't believe me, look at this RAS. All right, this is at corner, which typically are supposed to be even better athletes than your safety. He had a 9.7. 9.7, the 55th ranked corner ever tested. And they put this as a corner. All right, his height, his weight, his bench, all good. Now, that would have gone down just a little bit if he tests it as a safety. All right, his explosion, what was already elite, will become elite at a safety. His agility, which was poor, will go to good, all right, as a safety. And his speed, which was great, will go to immaculate as a safety. Everything about him screams safety. It screams, I am going to be very, very good at this. He passes the eye test. He passed the game test. He got big plays in big moments. Game-clinching NFC North crown against the Minnesota Vikings. It is good. My expectation for Ifeatu Melifonwu for this upcoming year is a Pro Bowler. All right? He is a Pro Bowler, and if he can stay healthy, I expect him fully to beat out and whoever he needs to be on the field consistently, because there's nothing he can't do. He can help in the run. He is a phenomenal pass defender, and he's got enough length and height and weight to actually go and guard a tight end here or there. There's nothing you can't do with the man. The only struggle he might have is the really quick little gadget guys out of the nickel, but he's not going to have to do that very often. It's really good. All right, so I know Chris did this. I want to talk something. I want to talk the best Detroit Lions of all time. I want to talk about the Mount Rushmore of Detroit Lions. And this is always a very interesting conversation to me, right? This is a very interesting one to me because you know who two names are going to be, right? Because they're two guys that are arguably the best at their position to ever do it. And when you're that, you're going to be on the Mount Rushmore of your team. And that is Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that. By the way, Barry Sanders, we all know, the GOAT at wide receiver. All right, we're running back. I said wide receiver, right? I was already going into Calvin Johnson here. Barry Sanders is the GOAT. I'll give you my honest opinion. Calvin is not the GOAT when it comes to wide receivers. I don't think it's him. Do I think he is in the top 5? Yes. Do I think he's in the top 3? Yeah. All right. But number 1 is Jerry Rice. It always will be for me. Then things get a little interesting because there's a lot of the older players that were really good players, right? The Dick Night Train Lane, the Alex Karras, right? Alex Karras, all that kind of stuff. And then you have a lot of the, what do we do with this person? Like the Matt Stafford. Is he on the Mount Rushmore? Definitely the best quarterback in our history. By the way, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that Jared Goff is going to go down as the best Lions quarterback of all time. I know it's nuts, but like he's going to keep putting up numbers. He's going to keep winning games. So when you put the numbers with the games, it's going to be there. No, I'm not saying Jared Goff's on our Mount Rushmore. When his career's done, if he plays with us for another 6, 7, 8 years, he will be on that Mount Rushmore over Stafford. But you have like the Alex Karras and Dick Night Train Lane, Bobby Lane, Lem Barney, Billy Sims. You have that whole crew of guys that played really before I was watching football. And then you have the guys that all played when I was watching football. You have the Herman Moores. You have the Chris Spielmans. Yes, we're going to talk about Jason Hansen. Yes, we are going to talk about Lomas Brown, right? Robert Porsche. Like all these guys have to be in consideration. So who are your last two? Who are your last two that are going to go on the Mount Rushmore after the very obvious Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson? My third on that 4 Mount Rushmore is going to be Chris Spielman. And here's my reason for it. My reason for Chris Spielman is very, very simple. I think that he not only was a phenomenal player, but he now has been a massive part of what has turned this team around in the front office. He has been very, very helpful in that. And then I am going to go ahead, and I know this is nuts. I'm going to go ahead. It's not nuts. I'm going to say Bobby Lane because nope, I'm not. I'm not going to say Bobby Lane because of the curse. I don't want to do it. I can't say it. So I'm between, if I'm being honest with you, Billy Sims and Matt Stafford. And I want to throw Jason Hanson in there too. You can't throw a kicker in there, even though, Jason, I love you. I love you. You deserve it. All right. But I'm going to go with Stafford for my fourth one, even though I was really mad at him. Oh, man, was I mad at him after that playoff game and the way he responded. So, anyways, there you go. Thanks for watching all summer long and into the season. We want to be your go-to spot for Lions football. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button. See ya.